I need to tell you about something that happened on First Take this morning that I cannot stop thinking about. And I am going to be honest with you right from the jump. I have watched a lot of sports television in my life. I have seen hundreds, probably thousands of segments where analysts and commentators break down trades, free agency moves, and roster decisions. Most of the time, I can see where the conversation is going before it gets there. I can predict the takes. I can anticipate the arguments. I have developed this internal radar for how these segments unfold, but every once in a while, something happens on live television that I did not see coming, something that catches me completely off guard. And this morning was one of those times, because what Stephen A. Smith revealed during the show has the potential to change the entire landscape of the Eastern Conference and transform the New York Knicks from a very good team into a genuine championship favorite. Here is how it happened. The show was about 30 minutes in. Stephen A. and Shannon Sharpe had been discussing which NBA teams heading into the postseason still have weaknesses that could be exploited in a 7-game series. The conversation had naturally drifted to the Eastern Conference, which is appropriate because the East this year is as loaded as it has been in a very long time. You have the Celtics, who are still the defending champions and still have arguably the deepest roster in the league. You have the Bucks, who have Giannis and are always dangerous in a playoff setting. You have the Cavaliers, who have been one of the best regular season teams. You have the Pacers, who made a surprise run to the conference finals last year, and then you have the Knicks, who have quietly put together one of the best regular seasons in franchise history and locked up the 3rd seed. Hey, what's up everyone? Real quick before we get into everything, that like button is literally what determines if this reaches hundreds or thousands of fans. Takes 1 second but makes a huge impact on the channel's growth. Just smash that like button right now. It's the easiest thing you can do, but honestly the biggest way to support this content. Every single like pushes this further, so hit it now. Shannon was making the point that the Knicks are a really good team that might be one piece away from being a great team. He talked about how the Knicks this season have been built on defense, toughness, and the brilliance of Jalen Brunson, who has emerged as one of the best point guards in the NBA. He praised their depth, mentioning guys like Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, and Julius Randle. He talked about how Tom Thibodeau has instilled a defensive identity that makes them one of the toughest teams in the league to score against. But then he pivoted to the Knicks' limitation. He said that for all their defensive excellence, the Knicks sometimes lack the offensive firepower to go blow for blow with the truly elite offensive teams in the league. He pointed to the fact that their half-court offense can become stagnant, that they sometimes rely too heavily on Brunson to create everything, and that they could use another dynamic offensive player who can put pressure on the defense in ways that their current roster cannot. Stephen A. was building on this point. He was talking about how the Knicks' identity this season has been as a grinded-out defensive-first team that wins ugly. And while that style can be effective, he argued that it has a ceiling. In the playoffs, when you face elite defenses that can shut down your half-court offense and force you into long possessions, you need players who can create their own shot, who can get to the rim, who can make something out of nothing when the play breaks down. And right now, the Knicks roster, while incredibly well constructed, is a little bit light on that kind of dynamic, create something from nothing offensive talent. It was a thoughtful, nuanced discussion, the kind of basketball analysis that does not get enough airtime on sports television. And then Molly Karam told them they were heading to commercial break. I did not think anything of it. I assumed they would come back and continue the conversation about the Eastern Conference playoff picture, maybe move on to the Celtics or the Cavaliers. But when the cameras came back on, something had changed, and I noticed it immediately. Stephen A. Smith was not the same person who had gone to commercial break 2 minutes earlier. His whole energy was different. He was sitting forward with his elbows on the desk. His hands were clasped together. His expression was dead serious, not the performative seriousness that he sometimes uses for dramatic effect. Real, genuine seriousness. The kind that comes from sitting with a piece of information that you know is significant and trying to figure out exactly how to deliver it. Shannon saw it too. I watched Shannon's head turn towards Stephen A., and I could see this look cross his face. This combination of curiosity and alertness, like a dog that has just heard a sound it cannot identify. Molly started to transition to the next topic, but Stephen A. raised one hand, barely above desk level, and said in a voice that was notably softer than his usual volume, "Listen, during the break I made a phone call. And what I am about to share with you is going to change the conversation about the New York Knicks entirely. The set went quiet, and I mean quiet, not the manufactured quiet of a dramatic pause, the organic quiet of a room full of people who all just realized that something unexpected is about to happen. Shannon unfolded his arms and leaned forward. Molly sat up straighter in her chair, and Stephen A., speaking in that measured, almost cautious tone that he uses when he is delivering information rather than opinions, began to share what his source had told him. According to Stephen A., the New York Knicks and the Sacramento Kings have been engaged in serious advanced trade discussions centering on De'Aaron Fox. He was deliberate with his language. He used the word advanced multiple times. He emphasized that these were not preliminary conversations or exploratory calls. These are substantive negotiations where the framework of a deal has been discussed, where asset packages have been evaluated, where both front offices are actively working toward a resolution, and the way he said it with this quiet intensity that radiated from every word left no room for doubt that he believed this information to be credible. De'Aaron Fox to the New York Knicks. Let those words sit with you for a moment. Because if you understand what De'Aaron Fox is as a basketball player and what the Knicks currently have on their roster and what they are missing, you understand immediately why this is potentially the most transformative trade possibility in the entire NBA right now. The Knicks have built an incredible defensive foundation. They have Jalen Brunson, who is a crafty, intelligent, tough-as-nails point guard who has elevated himself into the top tier of NBA guards. They have Mikal Bridges, one of the best wing defenders in the league, who also provides efficient scoring and three-point shooting. They have OG Anunoby, who is one of the most versatile defenders in basketball and who has developed an offensive game that makes him a legitimate threat on that end as well. They have Julius Randle, who is a physical mismatch at the power forward position. And they have a collection of young, developing talent like Mohamed Diawara, Tyler Kolek, and Ariel Hukporti who represent the future. But what they do not have, and this is the piece that Shannon was identifying before the break, is a dynamic, explosive guard who can change the pace of the game, who can get into the paint at will, who can force the defense to collapse and create open looks for everyone else. Brunson is an incredible player, but his game is built on craft, patience, and mid-range scoring rather than explosive speed and rim pressure. The Knicks' offense, as a result, tends to be more methodical and half-court oriented. They grind you down rather than blowing past you. And while that style works in the regular season and even in the first couple rounds of the playoffs, when you face the elite teams, the Celtics, the Bucks, the teams that can match your defensive intensity while also unleashing offensive firepower that overwhelms you, you need another gear. You need a player who can take the pace from first gear to fifth in an instant. De'Aaron Fox is that player. The combination of Brunson and Fox in the same backcourt would be unlike anything the Knicks have had in decades. You would have two guards who can both create, both score, and both handle the ball at an elite level, but who do it in completely different ways. Brunson beats you with guile, change of pace, and mid-range mastery. Fox beats you with pure speed, explosive athleticism, and relentless pressure on the rim. Imagine being a defensive coordinator trying to game plan against that backcourt. If you put your best defender on Brunson, Fox is going to destroy your second best perimeter defender off the dribble. If you put your best defender on Fox, Brunson is going to carve up the help defense with his craftiness and his step back jumper. If you try to double one of them, the other one is going to find the open man or score himself. There is no defensive scheme that can account for both of them simultaneously. It is the kind of offensive dilemma that championship teams are built on. Shannon responded to Stephen A.'s revelation with a level of analysis that I genuinely appreciated. He did not go into hype mode. He did not start yelling about how the Knicks would be unstoppable. Instead, he calmly laid out what Fox would do for the Knicks' offensive identity. He said that the Knicks right now are one of the more cadenced, methodical offensive teams in the league. They play in the half court, they run their sets, they grind possessions, and that approach works because of the personnel they have. But with Fox, you can play a completely different style of basketball when the situation calls for it. You can push the pace, you can get out in transition, you can attack before the defense gets set. And having that ability to change speeds, to go from a half-court grind to a full-court sprint at any moment is an incredibly valuable weapon in a 7-game series because it prevents the opposing defense from ever getting comfortable. Shannon also made a point about what Fox would mean for the Knicks in the playoffs specifically, and I think this is critically important. He talked about how the postseason is defined by moments, not possessions, not quarter, moments. The final 2 minutes of a close game, the last possession of a 1-point game, the overtime period where every basket feels like it weighs 1,000 pounds. And in those moments, you need players who can create their own shot, who can get to the rim and either finish or draw a foul, who can put the ball in the basket when the defense knows exactly what is coming and is doing everything it can to stop it. Fox is that kind of player. He has shown it throughout his career in Sacramento. He has a documented history of performing in clutch situations, of rising to the occasion when the stakes are highest, of finding a way to score when the game is on the line. That clutch gene, that ability to be at your best when it matters most, is not something you can coach. It is something you either have or you do not. Fox has it. Now let me talk about the broader context of the Knicks roster and why the timing of this potential trade is so significant. The Knicks recently received some good news about their draft situation. With the Wizards clinching the worst record in the NBA, the Knicks secured the rights to the 31st overall pick, which is the first selection in the second round of the 2026 draft. Combined with their own first-round pick, which currently projects to be the 25th overall selection, the Knicks will have 2 picks in what is expected to be a loaded draft class. That is important context because it means the Knicks have draft capital that they could potentially use as part of a trade package for Fox. The 31st pick, while technically a second rounder, functionally feels like a late first rounder in a deep draft class. Players like Bogdan Bogdanovic, Nick Claxton, and Andrew Nembhard were all selected with the 31st pick in previous drafts, so there is historical precedent for finding real talent there. But if the alternative is using that pick as part of a package to acquire a proven all-star caliber point guard in his prime, the calculus changes significantly. And here is the thing about the Knicks' young talent that I think is relevant to this discussion. They recently lost Dink Pate, a rising star in the G League who averaged 16 points per game for the Westchester Knicks, and who was a Rising Stars game participant at the All-Star break. Pate chose to return to college and play for Providence, which is a loss for the Knicks' developmental pipeline. Losing a young player like Pate for nothing, without getting any return on the investment, is the kind of thing that stings. But it also underscores the importance of the Knicks being aggressive in acquiring established talent rather than relying solely on development. Development is uncertain, draft picks are unpredictable, but De'Aaron Fox is a known commodity. He is a proven 25-point-per-game scorer in his prime who can create offense at the highest level. You do not pass on that kind of certainty in favor of hope and potential. I want to talk about the defensive side of this pairing because I think it adds another layer to why Fox on the Knicks would be so dangerous. The Knicks are already one of the best defensive teams in the league under Thibodeau. They have elite wing defenders in Bridges and Anunoby. They have a physical, imposing front court. They play with intensity and effort on that end of the floor. Fox, while not a lockdown defender, is a capable and willing defensive player. He has the length and the speed to stay in front of guards. He is active in passing lanes. And more importantly, when surrounded by the defensive infrastructure that the Knicks have, Fox would not need to be a great individual defender. He would just need to be solid, and the system around him would cover for any lapses. The Knicks' defensive scheme is built on help, rotation, and team principles. Fox would benefit enormously from being in that system, and the system would not be significantly weakened by his presence. Shannon made one final observation that I want to share because I think it captures the essence of why this trade would be so impactful. He said that New York has always been a stage that elevates certain players. There is something about playing in Madison Square Garden, about being in the biggest media market in the world, about wearing the Knicks uniform that brings out the best in certain kinds of players. Guys who thrive on the pressure, who are energized by the spotlight, who want to be the star in the biggest market. Those are the guys who become legends in New York, and Fox, by all accounts, is that kind of player. He has a confidence, a swagger, a competitive edge that would not just survive in New York, but would flourish there. The Garden crowd would love him, the city would embrace him, and the national spotlight that comes with being a star in New York would elevate his profile in a way that was never possible in Sacramento. Think about the marketability angle for a moment. Fox in a Knicks uniform, running up and down the Madison Square Garden floor, finishing at the rim with that explosive first step, draining pull-up jumpers in the mid-range, pushing the pace in transition with Brunson filling the lane beside him. That is the kind of basketball that sells tickets, moves merchandise, and generates the national television ratings that the league craves. The NBA wants its stars in big markets. The Knicks want a star who can take them to the next level. Fox wants a stage that is commensurate with his talent. Everyone's interests are aligned.